My name is Maya. I thought at 28, I was too old to be crushed by my own family. I was wrong. The lawyer's office was cold and smelled of expensive leather. My parents, Charles and Beatrice, sat proudly in their designer clothes. My sister, Chloe, sparkled beside them. The lawyer, Mr. Adams, cleared his throat. He explained my parents were giving their wealth to their children today. My heart beat fast, hoping for a sign they saw me as an equal. Chloe got a trust fund. The number he said was so big it sucked the air from the room. $18 million. She squealed and hugged our parents. They beamed with pride. Then, all three turned to look at me. My mother's smile became a thin, tight line. The celebration was over. My part in this play was about to begin. And for Maya, my father said, his voice loud in the quiet room. He didn't look at Mr. Adams. He looked right at me. My mother opened her sleek, black purse. She pulled out a single bill. She placed it on the shiny wood table and pushed it toward me. It slid across the surface and stopped right in front of my chair. A $5 bill. It was crisp and new, probably from the bank this morning. We're leaving you $5, Maya, my mother said. Her voice was sweet, but her eyes were cold. Consider it a start. You need to learn the value of money. I just stared at the green bill. My face felt numb. I couldn't look away from it. $5. Chloe let out a sharp, mean laugh. Don't look so sad, Maya, she said, already taking a picture of the money with her phone. You can frame it. Put it in your little apartment. My father nodded, his face serious. This is a lesson, Maya. Accountability. Your sister and Brandon understand business. They build wealth. He waved a hand toward me. You work with old books in that library. You don't understand the real world. Brandon, Chloe's husband, gave a small, smug smile. He was a money manager, and my parents thought he was a genius. I was the family's biggest disappointment. The $5 proved it. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I held my feelings deep inside where they couldn't see. This was their power, to make me feel small. But I wouldn't let them have this win. I looked at each of them. I held my mother's gaze until she glanced away, adjusting her pearl necklace. I looked at my father until he coughed and looked at his watch. My silence was my shield. They wanted a reaction. I gave them nothing. Inside, I was breaking. But on the outside, I was calm. The $5 sat between us, a symbol of everything they thought of me. Just as my family started gathering their things to leave, Mr. Adams spoke again. His voice was calm but firm. The meeting is not quite concluded, he said. My father sighed, annoyed. What now, Adams? We have a celebration dinner. Mr. Adams pulled a second, older-looking envelope from his briefcase. It was sealed with red wax. We have one more document to read, he explained. This is the last will and testament of Mr. Joseph, your grandfather. The room went still. Chloe stopped texting. Grandpa Joe, she said. But his stuff was just some old things. Right, Dad? My father looked confused. This is unnecessary, he said. Mr. Adams broke the wax seal. Mr. Joseph was very specific. This will was only to be read after yours, in this room, with everyone present. He began to read. My grandfather's voice seemed to fill the room through the lawyer's words. I have watched my family change. I leave my assets not on blood, but on character. My mother shifted uncomfortably. To my granddaughter, Chloe, Mr. Adams read. I leave my collection of classic cars. Chloe's eyes lit up. Grandpa Joe loved his cars. She was already thinking of the money. Then Mr. Adams turned his gaze to me. My family did too, with bored looks. To my granddaughter, Maya, Mr. Adams read, who shares my love for stories and the truth they hold. I leave my old cabin in the woods and everything inside it. All the books, all the papers, all of it is yours. The silence lasted a second before Chloe burst out laughing. His junk, she cried. That falling down shack and a pile of moldy books. Oh, that's perfect for you, Maya. My father chuckled and shook his head. Sentimental old fool, he muttered. My mother just smiled a pitying smile. A cabin full of paper. How fitting. I felt my cheeks burn with shame. It was the final insult. But then Brandon, my brother-in-law, spoke up. He held up a hand. Actually, Maya, you don't have to worry about that mess, he said, sounding pleased with himself. As the family's financial manager, I handled Grandpa Joe's estate. That cabin was a wreck. I sold it last week to a land developer. Got $20,000 for it. Consider it a favor. I felt like I'd been punched. I couldn't breathe. You sold it? I whispered. My father clapped Brandon on the back. Good man. 20,000 is more than that dump was worth. He looked at me. Be grateful. It's more than you had. They all thought it was over. They started moving toward the door again, talking about their dinner. My mind was racing. Grandpa Joe's cabin. His books. His papers. He had always told me they were his real treasure. I thought he meant it was a treasure of memories. But what if he meant something else? Brandon was already writing me a check for $20,000. Just sign the paper, Maya, and we can all go, he said. Mr. Adams watched me, his eyes kind. I stood up, my chair scraping the floor. I'm not signing anything, I said. My voice was stronger than I expected. I didn't wait for their reactions. I turned and almost ran from the room. I rushed out into the hallway, pulling my phone from my pocket with shaking hands. I scrolled through my contacts, my heart pounding. I found the number I needed. Dr. Aris, a professor of historical documents. I had worked with him on a project for the library. He answered on the third ring. Dr. Aris, I said, my voice shaking. It's Maya. The collection we talked about, my grandfather's papers. The ones in the cabin. Maya? What about them? He asked, his interest immediate. They're gone, I choked out. My brother-in-law sold the cabin and everything in it. He sold it last week. There was a sharp silence on the other end of the line. Maya, listen to me, Dr. Aris said, his voice suddenly urgent. You must stop that sale. Do you understand? You have to get it back. Why? I asked, my panic growing. What was in there? Those weren't just books, he said. From the descriptions and photos you showed me, your grandfather had original manuscripts. First editions, yes, but also letters. Handwritten letters from famous authors thought to be lost. His voice was intense. Maya, that collection is priceless. I leaned against the wall, my legs weak. Priceless, I whispered. Culturally, yes, but for a library or a museum to acquire it, based on the verified items we discussed, the value would be in the millions. Our university board was preparing an offer. A conservative estimate was $15 million. The number hit me like a physical blow. $15 million. My family had laughed at me for $5 and a cabin of junk. They had let Brandon sell a $15 million treasure for $20,000. I ended the call with Dr. Aris, my mind reeling. I had to get back in that room. I walked back into the conference room. My family was almost at the door. They turned, annoyed to see me. Back for your $5? Chloe sneered. Brandon waved the check. Just sign, Maya. I ignored them. I walked straight to Mr. Adams. Mr. Adams, I said, my voice clear. You are the executor of my grandfather's will. I need you to file an injunction to stop the sale of that cabin. Now. Brandon laughed. It's too late. The sale is final. I turned and looked right at him. Is it? I just got off the phone with Dr. Eris at the university. Who? My father asked, impatient. An expert, I said. The junk you sold for $20,000? The books and papers in that cabin. They include lost manuscripts and letters. The university was preparing to offer $15 million for the collection. The check fell from Brandon's hand. It fluttered to the floor. Chloe's mouth dropped open. My mother's face went white. What? She whispered. Then her eyes snapped to Brandon. 15 million? You sold 15 million for 20,000. Her voice started to rise. You idiot! She screamed. She lunged at him, her perfect composure gone. The room exploded into chaos. My mother was shrieking at Brandon. Chloe was hitting his arm, crying. What did you do? That was my money. My father was yelling, his face purple. Mr. Adams watched it all, silent. I stood calmly by his desk. The $5 bill was still there. I picked it up and put it in my pocket. It was my reminder. This was no longer about the money for me. It was about what was right. My grandfather had left that collection to me because he knew I would love it. He knew I would protect it. Later, at my parents' huge house, the screaming continued. You have to fix this, my father roared at Brandon. Call that developer. Cancel the deal. I can't. Brandon yelled back, sweating. The contract is signed. It's final. My mother was pacing, her hands shaking. $15 million. In a dusty old cabin. I think I'm going to be sick. They all turned on me then. You, my mother spat. You knew. You knew what was in there and you let this happen. I shook my head. I knew it was important to Grandpa. I didn't know the money. But Brandon, I said, looking at him, you sold it without even looking. Get out, my father said, pointing a shaking finger at me. Get out of my house. I didn't argue. I left them in their panic. I went straight to Mr. Adams's office. We had work to do. He helped me file the legal papers to freeze the sale. The developer was not happy, but the law was on my side. The cabin and its contents still belonged to my grandfather's estate, which meant they belonged to me. But my family wasn't giving up. They hired a new lawyer. They started a new, cruel plan. They decided to fight my grandfather's will. They claimed he was old and confused when he wrote it. They said he didn't know what he was doing. Even worse, they filed papers to get a conservatorship over me. They told the court I was unstable. They said I couldn't handle such a large amount of money. They said my job at the library proved I wasn't a serious person. They were trying to take control of the collection away from me. It was a nasty, low move. It showed me how desperate and greedy they were. Mr. Adams was angry. This is a dirty fight, Maya, he warned me. We need to prove your grandfather was of sound mind. And we need to find out more about this sale. He had an investigator look into the company that bought the cabin. It was called Pinecrest Holdings. The name meant nothing to me. But Mr. Adams kept digging. He found out that Pinecrest Holdings was owned by another company. And that company was owned by Brandon. He had sold my inheritance to himself. When Mr. Adams told me, I felt cold. It wasn't a mistake. It was theft. Brandon had known. He had gone through Grandpa Joe's things, seen the valuable papers, and set up a secret company to buy them for nothing. He had used my parents to make it look legal. He was planning to sell the collection himself and keep all the money. He was stealing from all of us. I knew what I had to do. I had to talk to the one person who might listen. I had to talk to Chloe. I met Chloe at a busy coffee shop. She looked tired and angry. "What do you want?" she snapped. I slid a folder across the table. "I want to show you what your husband did." She opened it. She saw the documents linking Brandon to Pinecrest Holdings. She read them, her face getting paler. "I don't understand," she whispered. "He sold the cabin to his own company?" "Yes," I said. "He was stealing the $15 million from me. But he was also stealing from you." I showed her the papers about my parents' trust. The $18 million was managed by Brandon. He could move it if he wanted. "He was going to take it all, Chloe," I said softly. "The $15 million from the collection and the $18 million from your trust. He was going to leave you with nothing." The truth dawned in her eyes. The anger faded, replaced by fear. She looked at me, really looked at me for the first time. "My money," she whispered. "He's going to take my money." I nodded. "We have to stop him. Together." Chloe wiped a tear from her eye. The mean, proud sister was gone. She was scared and wanted to fight back. "What do you want me to do?" she asked. Our plan was simple. Chloe would act normal. She would get Brandon to admit what he did while I recorded it. A few days later, she called me. "Come to the house," she said, sounding upset. "Brandon says he can fix everything." When I arrived, my parents were there. They tried to act nice. "Maya, we overreacted," my mother said. Brandon smiled his oily smile. "I made a mistake, but I bought the cabin back. For you. Just sign this paper giving me control to sell it for the family, and I'll give you $100,000. He slid a check toward me. It was another insult. I looked at Chloe. She gave a tiny nod. "I don't think so, Brandon," I said. I played the recording from my phone. His voice filled the room. He was talking to Chloe, bragging about his smart plan. He said my grandfather was a fool. He said my parents were easy to trick. He said he would take the money and leave. My father's face turned dark red. "You," he growled. Just then, the doorbell rang. Mr. Adams walked in with 2 police officers. "Brandon Blackwell," one officer said. "You are under arrest for fraud and theft." It was all over after that. Brandon went to jail. The court threw out my family's case against me. The cabin and its priceless collection were mine. My parents lost a lot of their money because of Brandon. They had to sell their big house. Chloe divorced him and started a new, quieter life. I didn't sell the collection. I donated most of it to a museum where it could be safe and everyone could see it. I kept a few of my grandfather's favorite books. One day, Chloe visited me. She handed me a wrinkled $5 bill. "From my first paycheck," she said. "A real one." I took it and smiled. I framed it and hung it on my wall. It wasn't a symbol of shame anymore. It was a reminder that my real inheritance was never about money. It was about truth, and I had earned it myself. If you've made it this far, you understand, your worth isn't defined by anyone else's seating chart. Not by a $5 bill, a sneer, or who your family believes first. My story proves that silence can be a weapon, and patience can be your greatest power. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who's been made to feel invisible. Tell them this: your quiet doesn't make you weak. Your boundaries don't make you difficult. Your survival makes you extraordinary. Subscribe for more on turning humiliation into triumph. The real revolution begins when you decide to write your own ending. Your worth was never in question. It was only waiting, like a treasure in a forgotten cabin, for you to remember it.